Welcome to the Pro Design Builder podcast, where professionals and entrepreneurs share their stories, secrets to building a thriving business and a successful life. I'm Sam, your host, as we dive deep into the world of life experiences and entrepreneurship. Before we get started, I'd like to just thank our sponsor, the Pro Design Builder, which is a uh, coaching and consulting firm for investors who want to build spec homes and multifamily. The Pro Design Builder is not just about building a business, it's about building a vision and a life by design. As you know, foster care is near and dear to my heart. I've had 5 kids through our home. I've adopted 2 kids. I'm currently fostering. The mission is never over in foster care. And if you feel led to give to our there's going to be a link to the Patreon. Feel free to give at any time. Some of the things that it supports is we purchase beds for foster families and adoptive families. We also provide meals as the primary cook in the house. I know how important it is to have that additional meal provided, and I don't have to scramble there. All right. Also, we are pro family, so we support a strong union. We feel like that gives the child the best support. So if we could provide an additional date night to anybody that's in the trenches, we feel like that's something that we should provide. All right. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest today, Lisa Bischoff, which is a transformative transformative coach, groundbreaking book, Hack Your Healing, Revolutionizing Your Journey to Wellness. Lisa is a former hacker, jewel thief, engineer, and convict turned healer. Goes beyond merely addressing life's wounds. She delivers deep to rewrite the code to your soul. All right. Hopefully, I did you justice there. I'm not sure if I did or not, but welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sam, and you did fantastic. So I appreciate you.
So, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my life is anything but, I guess, normal. I don't know that anybody's is normal, right? The quick version of my story, if that's where you'd like me to start.
Go, just go.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, 4th grade, I wrote my first software program. So I was kind of like a child prodigy. I would never really realize that until later in life when I looked back and saw all the stuff that I was involved in. I started college at the age of 14. It was also the same time I started hacking phone lines. It was when I got my first computer at home and I sat there and really learned how to use the computer. I did radio contests by jamming the phone lines, and my family thought it was cute. They were like, "Wow, you're so smart." So I was praised for what I was doing, but I was actually doing bad things, right?
Yes.
And so I'd go on and I would get my electrical engineering degree. And sometimes I joke around that I actually stole that too, because I had a master key and I would break in and get my exams ahead of time. And if they weren't readily available, I'd use my hacking skills, get on the computers and print them out. So got my electrical engineering degree. I would go on and meet my best friend at the age of 21, who was a model, and loved it. It was like everything I saw on TV. It was the life I always wanted access to, VIP to the nightclubs and travel, photo shoots, making good money as an engineer. Loved it. I'd go on to buy my house. It was probably almost $500,000 expensive house for somebody my age. But by the age of 27, I had met con artists, criminals, and mafia figures and gotten involved with them. I found myself $1 million in debt. And so at that point, I couldn't sustain my lifestyle because I was only making 6 figures as an engineer. And I say only, but that was not able to sustain the lifestyle that I loved. And it was, my thing was never drugs and alcohol. It was expensive, shiny things. So it got me into a lot of trouble. And so in 2007, I found myself, I hacked a database. I would eventually, and I had all those identities. But the twist on that was I was actually on a business trip in Arizona working for my company as an applications engineer and saw this Porsche that I had to have, $92,000 Porsche. And but I was maxed out. I had no more credit. I had no way to buy it, but it was like I was fixated on it, had to have it. Well, I had an identity I had acquired on another trip. And so I decided to try to use that to buy this Porsche and didn't get away with it, got arrested. And when I was arrested in Arizona, in my backpack, I had my computers and hard drives that contained the database of Colorado Springs that I had hacked. And so arrested in Arizona. My parents came and bailed me out, brought me back to Colorado Springs. Within 24 hours, I was all over the news.
Oh
So they
wow.
were looking for information on me for this database and who else was involved, what was going on. And I got arrested here in Colorado Springs. So 2007, lost my career as an engineer, all my security clearances, everything gone.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, they ended up spending 30 days in jail in Arizona in 2007. And then in Colorado Springs, I ended up with probation. And wasn't allowed to use smartphones or computers for 2 years. So no technology, which is really hard for a tech person, right? You take
Yeah,
everything
for
away.
sure.
So tried to get my life on track, but there wasn't a lot I could do. I couldn't volunteer because I was a thief. Theft of information. Nobody would let me near anything, and I get
Correct.
it. Like nobody wants you around, and so my parents were like, "Well, go do something." So I started playing tennis and golf. So at least I was getting out of the house, not sitting at home, depressed and trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was pros and cons to that. I was getting out, I was getting active, I was doing things, but I was around people, amazing people, the country clubs, but I was around money and people
Okay.
that did all the things I wanted to do. And so it
Mm-hmm.
was kind of starting to spark that again. So my
Oh,
parents
okay.
made $40 million a year. And I wanted to hang out and live the lifestyle, but I didn't have a job. So my parents are, kind of sustaining me, but not realizing how much they're sustaining me.
Mm-hmm.
2012, um, I get to start volunteering at my church. Eventually, I get put on staff at the church. We'll fast forward 2019. Basically, I led a double life. I led a double life with my friends, with the lifestyles of the rich and famous. And then over here, I'm leading services at a church for
Oh,
children on
oh
stage,
wow. Yeah.
loving Jesus, but you can't serve two masters. And
Yep.
I find myself $100,000 in debt in 2019, but it wasn't just in my name. It was also in my parents' name, and I didn't want them to find out about it.
Oh wow.
That's when I mastermind a $600,000 diamond and jewelry heist from a client that I worked for. And that would take place in May of 2019. And I would get away with it for about 4 months. And then in September of 2019, I'd be arrested for that. And at the time of that arrest, that'd be my third strike because 2007 was Arizona and Colorado. And then this would be Colorado. And I'm facing mandatory prison. And because of the magnitude of this crime, I'm looking at 12 years in prison.
Oh wow. 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 So that's you unpacked a lot there. But I'm gonna just try to peel some of this onion back and just go back a little bit, and then we will kind of unpack a lot of this. So how were you as a kid? Um,
So as a kid, I was very driven. So it's interesting. Like I always wanted to be the best at everything. So I remember like second grade, I would do extra math problems. Like I would go home and just make up math problems and work on them. And I don't know that I had a lot of friends as a kid.
mhm.
Like my friends were adults. Like I enjoyed hanging out with the adults. A lot of times, my friends I did have that like the neighbor kids, they'd be outside playing after school and I would be wanting to do schoolwork. I wanted to be smarter and better than everybody. So that was kind of
Mm.
and my family just they always championed me. I was praised for how smart I was and my abilities. And everybody wanted me just to be the best. So I always had straight A's, never missed school.
Oh wow, that's amazing. So it there seems like there's this correlation with overachieving. It's just something that is built into you, and I'm pretty sure when this pivot happened and it started going in the right direction, it's same thing, overachieving, but in the right way. So, who would you say had the biggest influence on you growing up?
Honestly, it's probably so I have an older half brother and half sister. So my older half brother is 12 years older and my older half sister is 15 years. So my mom was married before she met my dad and unfortunately went through a divorce, but then met my dad. And I'm my mom and dad's only child. And
Hmm.
so my brother, since we're 12 years apart, he was going to school to be an engineer. And so I kind of followed in his footsteps. He's very, very smart guy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Was there like a defining moment in your childhood that shaped? You would say shaped the way that you are.
Uh, from what I can trace back, a lot of times when I speak, this is a huge part of my story. Is it goes back to like the third grade, and I've done quite a bit of like work, inner work and stuff on myself. But there was one memory that kept popping up, and it was third grade. And it was when I got bumped from an upper level reading group to a mid-level reading group. And I remember I was devastated because I was praised for my academics and how smart I was. And that day, um, it was like a whole lot of rejection came in. And I remember I wanted to like kill myself. Like I wanted to just not be here anymore. It was very extreme because I failed. I felt my only function in life was to be the smartest, and I failed at that. And so I remember making an inner vow that I would always do whatever it takes to never fail again.
Hmm. Would you say, how did you grow up? Did you grow up middle class, upper middle class? How did you grow up?
I would say middle class. I mean, I never went without anything. And my parents they're very comfortable. I wouldn't say
Hmm.
we were wealthy, but because my parents they're very frugal. They budget very well, but they
Hmm.
enjoyed things when they wanted to enjoy things. So I would say middle class, maybe a little above middle class, but not much.
Hmm. So where do you think that desire came from? That that ultimately sucked you in. Obviously, once you start experiencing life and you start experiencing some nicer things, it could grow and you could enjoy it and stuff like that. Do you know where that may have initially came from?
Honestly, I don't know. Like, it's interesting. Like so my parents are, like I said, they're very, very safe with money, I guess I would say. They don't ever buy anything on credit unless they absolutely have to, and it's paid off right away. So pretty much everything our family has ever done is with cash.
Hmm.
There's no debt. And so sometimes they would say, well, we don't need that. Very particular about how they spent money. And so for some reason, I was the complete opposite of I want it now, and I'm going to figure out how to get it. Does
Hmm.
that kind of answer your question?
No, it definitely does, and it tells me, you're very headstrong. I was a very headstrong, type of kid. Now, when I was a kid, I was like, we grew up poor, like very, very poor. My family's from Haiti, and we came here through political asylum. So we were literally starting, you start at the bottom, right? So for us, we only had our needs, needs only. That's kind of pretty much my childhood, which is actually not a bad thing, because so many people get enamored with the stuff, right? I don't have the attachment to stuff because I never had it. And then now I'm like, oh, that's what they're talking about in the scripture about the stuff and the people and and then how they function. And you could see it. You could see it all around you, how, so many people are so enamored with the stuff. Like they'll literally kill somebody over the stuff, right? So that was kind of like my story. So in a way, it was kind of, it sucked, but in as an adult, it was like, all right, well, that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me because I'm not attached to the stuff. Yeah. So okay. And then okay, so that was what, your childhood looked like. And then you started to, you always excelled in school. And I assume that you were probably taking like eight advanced placement classes to get into college that early. How was that experience?
So it's interesting. So I was and I joke about it, but I wasn't gifted and talented. And at one point, I wanted to make sure I got into gifted and talented. I remember cheating off my neighbor to get into gifted and talented.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so I originally was supposed to go into what they have. I don't know if you're familiar with the IB program, International Baccalaureate Program. So
Yes.
it's kind of like this was in 1994, so it's like early, college at that time, and I was um, invited into the program without even having to interview or test or anything. I guess my academics and everything, I was invited in, and a counselor had told my parents, they advised they advised my parents to not have me go into this program.
Hmm.
And there was something the counselor saw. I'm very much, I used to be a perfectionist with my
Hmm.
work, and I could spend hours making sure everything was so perfect. And they said, she won't make it because the workload is so heavy. If she spent, if you're a perfectionist trying to make everything perfect, it's not good. It wouldn't have
Hmm.
been good for me.
Yeah.
And they told my parents there's the chance. There's at that time there was some statistic that said there was a high suicide rate for people with my type of brain, the way I function.
Know what you think. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So they said it wouldn't be healthy. They advised against it. So that's when my parents decided, well, we want her to excel. So that's when they enrolled me in college courses, and I started college. I still did AP and honors classes at the regular high school. So I did them concurrently.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. So when you actually entered college, did you go further away from home, or how did that look for you? Did you, because you're very young. So,
Yeah, I wanted to go to Boulder, CU Boulder, and get
mm-hmm.
my electrical engineering degree there. The interesting thing was even though it's the same college, University of Colorado, the engineering programs were set up like slightly different. So like in Boulder, they might have circuits 1 and 2, and down here it's 1, 2, and 3. And so, or vice versa, but it was going to have to be extra credits to where it was going to take me an extra year if I decided to transfer up there. So the programs weren't completely parallel at that time.
Okay. All right.
Right. And there was the concern of me being so young, because I probably would have transferred up there around the age of 16. I would have still stayed here for the first couple of years. But being so young in the dorms, like, would that really have been the best environment for somebody so young?
Mm-hmm. All right. So in 2007, you hacked a database, and then what were you thinking? Was that your first, I would say, first time committing a crime or anything like that, or
No,
no?
there was one prior to that was pretty severe,
Mm,
and it was never. I don't know how
found.
to say it. So it was found. Oh,
I
it
was
was very much found.
oh.
I'll put it this way: it was back in 2003. The people involved were not necessarily on the up and up, and so they reported it. I was not ever arrested. It was basically, if you return, I took $30,000 in gold coins out of the safe. They said if you return those and take a lie detector test and go see a psychotherapist, we'll make it go away. So it was
Mm-hmm.
that was the first time I really got scared, that I was like, oh my gosh, I could lose everything. And so, but that went away. So it was kind of like a
It's
slap on
almost like it didn't happen. Almost.
right.
Yeah. So I think that when you are a overachiever like that, you've overachieved, your whole life. Unless you actually probably see the consequence, then you're just seeing it as a up and up, right? And which is a good and a bad thing. So then in 2007, this situation happened, and then were you facing time then, or what did that look like?
Yeah, so that was it was scary, the Arizona thing, because it became very real. And at that time, identity theft, it was known, and they were really creating. I think at that time they were creating more laws and really trying to punish people that committed identity theft. And so I had my family hired like 3 attorneys to try to like keep me from going to jail. Like, nobody wanted anything bad to happen. And they were like, no, in Arizona, they said, we're going to make an example out of her.
Oh wow.
And so they gave me time. And, it's probably, I was told that was one of the roughest places to serve jail time, is in Tent City with Sheriff Joe Arpaia. It's
Mm-hmm.
June in Phoenix, Arizona, and
Yeah.
you're in the tents, and it's
Yeah.
miserable.
Yep.
So yeah, so I did serve. My sentence was 60 days, and it got reduced down to 30 days.
Okay. All right. But enough to wake you up for a large stint or of time, but not enough to shake the bug completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you mentioned at one point you were essentially kind of living a double life, right? Where you were, uh Sunday school teacher, and and then something else. And would you say at that time that you truly had a relationship with Christ, or what was that time like for you?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I was raised Catholic, went through everything, confirmation. I used to go to catechism. And so I knew the Lord growing up.
Hmm.
And then in 2007, at the time of that arrest, I started going to a church here in Colorado Springs that was a Assemblies of God church, and loved it. Really started to learn more about Jesus and the relationship with him and Holy Spirit. So that started to turn my heart. but I still was not totally sold out to him. It was still living, it's, mixing the holy with the profane. I still lived
Correct.
that duplicitous life of, I wanted it, but my flesh wanted the world more.
Correct. Man, and I could fully relate, to that. I mean, for a long time, I was like lukewarm. I mean, and you know the song "Live on Sunday, King of Diamonds Monday." Uh, that was me. And sometimes Sunday I'd be right into church, but I didn't see too much of an issue with it. It's only like when you're looking back, you're kind of like, Sam, that wasn't where you needed to be, So, I completely, get it and relate to it. So then you fast forward, right? And then several years later, you have this potential heist. Kind of walk me through that story. What did that look like for you?
Um, well, okay, so like, I mean, in between, like when I started volunteering at the church, and I loved serving in ministry. And there was a time, and I wish I could pinpoint it, where there was a glimpse where I was totally sold out to Jesus. And I don't know how I shifted to being totally sold out and then like losing it. Because it's like
Mm-hmm.
somehow, I don't know how I let that happen for it to go away. But I worked for a company as the head of sales for engineering for a short time. I got to do a lot of really interesting jobs, in between there, but I was trying to figure life out because I wasn't hireable. I have a lot of companies that'll find me, and people that know me, they want to hire me for my engineering and tech background, because I can automate, I can do a lot of really great things. But then their HR department looks at my background and they're like, absolutely not. Like
Yeah,
she might
exactly.
hack
Yeah,
us.
it might, yeah,
Disrupt
crack
us.
this open, right?
So it was hard. It's always like, and so I'm always very tentative, like, taking jobs and stuff. But yeah, it was just, it feels like being two people, that whole time. And so gradually as the debt increased, I mean, I found ways to try to mask it, fix it. And I would, and there was 2014, I racked up 80,000 in debt. My parents fixed it. So
Hmm.
2019 wasn't the first time, it was the second time. And so it was kind of like this time I was in deep trouble. And so the client that I had worked for at the time, when I first started working for him, they had mentioned about this jewelry.
Hmm.
It sat in the back of my mind for, I don't even know, 5, 7 years. But
Oh
I
wow.
thought it was a
Hmm.
issue because it was like, I'm healed. I'm on the up and up. I would
Hmm.
just revert back and do it. And then one day it was kind of like having that little bit of a hook, right? That little toehold, and then
Hmm.
it progressed. So,
Yeah. So I did this Bible study where I was leading these guys, and on one of the, it's called freedom study, but it kind of really breaks down, our faith. But then it went into how the devil knows how to create custom bait only you can see, no one else can see it, and he'll just throw that out there, right? And I equate that to kind of like what happened, right? It happens to everybody. People are just not paying attention, but that thought that pops in your head, and then it starts first, and sin starts in the mind, right? It pops in there. If you don't get rid of it, and then it keeps popping in there, it'll stay in there, and then eventually you'll act on it. So
yeah.
that's kind of what essentially happened. But a lot of times most people don't see or understand, that's how it works, right? Is those small thoughts, it always starts very small, and then it grows through time, right? And if you don't get it addressed, this is how depression and stuff like that works too.
Mhm.
It starts to affect the body, right? So you got to be very conscious of your thoughts, and what you feed grows, right? So all right, so you get past this phase, all right? And there's a lot of lessons learned in this particular time frame for you. And now you are, I assume, you're on the up and up. I don't want to assume. So, how have you translated a lot of these life experiences into the business world?
Well, it's been like, okay, so after 2019, I ended up, so I didn't go to prison for 12 years because obviously I'm here and it's 2025. So
Yep,
I
yep,
ended up
yep.
getting 2 weeks in jail. That was like a whole gift from God.
Wow.
Yeah, and I gave back 400 out of the $600,000 in diamonds and jewelry. So 200,000 wasn't recovered, but my debt was forgiven. My restitution and fees was $10,000. So another gift, and very grateful for all that.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, 2020, I actually did my community service this time because in 2007, I did get 300 hours of community service and nobody would let me do it, but I found an organization to let me pay it off.
Oh,
And
okay.
they said, I know. And so that was, yeah, but don't worry, God and I have worked through that.
Yeah. No, of course. I mean, yeah, exactly. If I tell you my story, you'd be like, "Woo,
Yeah.
what?"
Definitely.
Everybody has something. But go ahead.
So I ended up doing my community service with a ministry here in town, and I got to help them with admin work and lead Bible studies. So that was really cool. And I was still in my healing process, doing a lot of inner healing, deliverance, and work. And I ended up managing a sober living facility for like 2 months, which everybody thought that was a bad idea because it was a lot of the women coming out of the prison. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I got this. I was in jail for 2 weeks. They're like, that
Yeah.
doesn't count. You basically, I had bodyguards. Like I had people that
Yeah.
protected me while I was there because people thought I was an informant.
Yeah.
So these
Yes.
girls, yeah, the girls in the sober living house, like I thought it was, I thought God opened the door, but I think that was more of a Lisa opened the door and walked through it because I lasted 2 months. And at that point, my life was pretty much in danger. I had one girl cut the brake lines on my car. Another like threatened to like kill me in the house. And I was like, my parents are like, this is not where you just need to just no, you just that's not the job for you. I also ran a startup food truck, but
Mm-hmm.
basically I almost killed myself doing that because it was like 6 months of intense labor. I would only
Yeah.
get one day off every couple of months. It was very successful. It was great, but it wasn't for me. I started to revert. I found myself drinking alcohol on a regular basis, and there was a lot of stuff starting to happen. And I was like, what is going on? So when we closed for the season, I tried to figure out what am I going to do with my life? Like I know there's so much more, that
Yeah.
God has so much more. Well, went through more healing, got an opportunity to start volunteering at the ministry that was helping me. Loved it, volunteered. Eventually, I got put on staff and got to help counsel and coach people ministry wise,
Yep.
and loved it. And
Mm-hmm.
then in 2023, I felt like God released me from there. And I'm like, well, God, what am I going to do? Like, this is my place. I love what
Yep.
I do. And he goes, this isn't the place for you.
Mm-hmm.
Time of that was February of 2023. I got the opportunity to start working with the publisher to write my book, a Christian publishing agency. And then I would also go on to work with some entrepreneurial programs because I found I'm truly not employable, like as a
Yeah.
regular person.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's hard to, yeah, you're an overachiever, so it is hard to be, employed because your capabilities are so much higher than probably I would say 99% of the people around you. So, but go ahead.
Oh yeah. So all that to say, I get bored very easily. Like I will automate, I will optimize things, and I will push myself out of work when I'm working for a company. And it's like, oh no, what do I do now? And
Hmm.
and then I get bored, which isn't good. So yeah, so I got in with these entrepreneurial programs, met some really amazing people, and this was also as I started going through my healing journey. So I got a ton of healing at that ministry that I was at, and
Yeah,
then I had hired a coach through Tony Robbins, and really got some clarity in life. And then from there, I started pursuing my fitness journey because at the time of my arrest back in 2019, I was 225 pounds and very unhealthy. Um,
hmm,
so all that to say, total transformation, but it all started from the inside out. Well, in my entrepreneurial program, I had people saying, well, we want what you got. And they heard me on some shows I had been on sharing my story.
yeah,
And I said, well, I could teach it to people. I'm certified as a personal trainer. I've been certified since 2009, even though my weight's kind of gone, all over the place. And I've got
that's
the life
normal.
coaching and the ministry background.
Hmm.
Why don't I develop programs to take people through everything I went through? And so that's kind of how I started developing that, went through the entrepreneurial programs, got clarity on my messaging, worked on becoming a professional speaker, and it's all just kind of started coming together.
Okay, you're still speaking now, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, yep, yep, yep. So, how has that journey been for you as a professional speaker? I think for me, my next chapter is speaking. More and more. So, the more that I do things like this and I share on the podcast and stuff like that, it just opens the door further for for that opportunity.
Yeah, no, I love it. And so one of the cool things was the first time I ever actually shared my story publicly was in 2022. And it was when I was at the ministry and I got to teach on shame and rejection. And part of
Mm-hmm.
that was sharing my story publicly. It was the
Yep.
first time my story didn't own me and I
Yep.
owned my story. And when
Mm-hmm.
I shared it and saw that it actually helped people,
It did.
it changed me in a big way. And from there, I'm working on a new keynote called Undeniable Transformation, and I've taken the inner healing steps I've used with people within the ministry, and I've taken them and developed it into what I call the grace process, which is 5 steps. And so all that to say is, I love the professional speaking world. It's a hard world to actually, as I'm getting into it, and
Uh-huh.
a lot of my friends are amazing. They make millions of dollars as professional speakers.
Yeah.
And my goal is to be, a
At the
very
top, because you only know one way.
yeah. And so, okay, so I'll tell you, like, I always find workarounds for stuff, right? And I was like, well, I'm
Yeah.
not getting booked on stages yet. And I said, I'm going to create my own thing. So I have friends that we were all championing each other, and I've created, I did a workshop last year I launched. And then this past weekend, I just did my second retreat with this amazing team of other speakers and coaches called Life Reimagined. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I love doing because we can help a lot of people
Yep.
the same time. And
Mm-hmm.
we all have such diverse backgrounds, but we all love to help people. And so it's just, that's what I really get joy in. And that's really what I want to build out as an entrepreneur is I've gone from one-on-one coaching that I still do, but I really like helping in a bigger,
Bigger group, bigger setting.
yeah.
Yeah. So similar to you. It was 2021. I got hit in the face with there's a bunch of things going on. It was COVID. It was I felt unsafe for the first time, and there was some background trauma that I really didn't deal with, and it kind of hit me in the face with some friendships that my wife had. And so then what I tracked it back to my relationship with my mom. That's where it kind of originated. And then but that sent me to therapy. And I remember telling her my story. I realized that only my wife knew my whole story. And at the end she was like, Sam, your story is beautiful. Sam, your story is beautiful. Right. And then I found that was the disconnect. And then she also said to me, she's like, Sam, I could hear it in you. It was like, you're ashamed of your story. You're ashamed of how you grew up and stuff like that. But the reality is you wouldn't be doing what you were doing in foster care without it. Right. And then that was the aha that, I got then, and the clarity I got then, that I actually, your story is your superpower, right? These things that we hold to ourselves that only we could see, and we think are so shameful, that when they're shared in a public platform, those are actual strengths, right? And that was when I made that realization. So we're very close in time frame, so now I share very openly about what life looked like for me, and it brings me and them to the source, which is Jesus Christ and foster care. Right. So that's why I share so openly now. All right. So I would like to ask you, um what would you say are some words, your best words of wisdom to people?
Oh man. Well, I would probably go back to when the judge was giving me my sentencing back in 2019.
Uh-huh.
I share this with I get to I get to volunteer at youth detention centers with Youth for
Uh-huh.
Christ twice a week.
Yep.
And I was like, so I laughed because I spend 10 hours a week volunteering now. And I was like, okay, that's God in the community service part that we're getting back for 2007. But
Yeah.
one of the things I always share with the kids, and I share this with adults too, is the judge said to me, he says, when he was giving me my sentence, he says, you're not a bad person, but you did a bad thing. And it wasn't the first time you did a bad thing. And that kind of started to shift my identity a little bit, that I I'm not the person of my events. Those were events.
Yeah.
And so I always like to remind them, like, we all make mistakes, but we don't have, that's not our identity. That's a time, and a place. You have a choice to be a good person and be better. And so I guess my words of wisdom, and a lot of times I end with this, is make the rest of your life the best of your life, because every day can be better.
Yeah, for sure. No, I completely agree with you. So I was on your website and I saw that you have a couple books. I'm not sure if they are released or are releasing. So tell me a little bit about those books.
Sure. So they're actually books I got to be they're collaborations.
Collaboration. Okay.
Yeah. So the first one is called Your Deck of Success. And so there's 52 of us. It's like a deck of cards, 52 of us that get to share our stories of success. Because back in 2019, I was pretty hopeless and didn't want to be here anymore, because I thought that was it. I ruined my life. I had a second chance and that was it. But God had a different plan. So that's the first one. I got to be a contributing author. And that book actually became an international best-selling book. Is super cool. And then the second one just got released this year, and it's called Divine Blueprint. And so it is, I think there's 17 of us in there. And one of the other authors is my niece, which is, that's amazing too. That's another God story, but it's all of us sharing our God success stories.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Great. So, what would you say are some traits or some good traits of a entrepreneur?
Oh man. So traits of a good entrepreneur, you have to, like, you do have to be disciplined. That is a huge part, is that being disciplined. But the biggest thing is being passionate about what you're doing. Because if you don't have that passion, and like I always tell everybody, I get excited to get up every day, and people think my schedule is crazy. I get up at 3:00 in the morning every day, and I usually don't get to bed till about 10:00 at night.
Oh, wow.
But I'm very passionate. I've built my company and everything I do around my training schedule, because I like to. I competed in figure this last year in 2024 for the first time, and I want to continue.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I want to stay healthy, and so I always, the first part of my day, I get to spend with God, and then I get to do self-care and work out.
Yeah, for sure.
But then the rest of my day is working on my company, my business. It's working on helping people, designing programs. And to me, that's exciting. I love everything I do and everybody I get to work with. And so every day is different for me. For the latter part, the first part's the same with the workouts and everything. But then after that, it's like, okay, God, what are we going to do today?
Yeah. So unbelievable consistency. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Right. And there's something that my business partner and I talk about all the time, which is messy action. Right. Which is so required, when you're launching something new or a new business or anything like that. Do you have any examples of messy action? Because you've probably done several things that you've done that you've probably never done before.
So tell me a little bit more about messy action. Like,
messy action is, hey, I might not have all the information. I might not have all the details, right? But I know I want to do this thing, and I'm going to just take the steps forward and getting it done or getting it going, and then everything else will kind of fall into place, and you'll gain your experience. So you're not waiting for perfection, right? So that's how I describe, messy action.
Okay. Yeah. I would say the majority of things I've done are messy action. And then one of the things I had, one of my coaches, his big thing is launch and adjust.
Yes.
And without that mentality, I wouldn't have done anything. But like, my friends will hear me. So, and it's also the people you surround yourself with, right? They say, I have what I call of my 5 board of directors, the 5 people that I'm very intentional, relational wise, that speak into my life that I want to learn from. Yep. And so I'll say, oh yeah, someday I want to do a retreat. Well, we're on our second retreat, because last June, I had talked about someday doing a retreat. And one of my clients said, I'll give you a retreat space. Go do it. I told another friend, she said, I'll be your first speaker. And so I have a lot of people that champion everything. And I'm like, but I'm not ready. And they're like, just go do it and learn and go forward.
Yeah. Sure, for sure. All right. This is messy action for me too. All right. You would have thought that I've been doing this for a long time, and I haven't. Yeah. So, but just like how we preach each episode, I get a lot better.
Yeah.
So take messy action when you're building or launching something new. So, what would you say is your best lessons learned from life and in business?
My best lessons learned in life is do things on the up and up. I have probably cost myself and my family millions of dollars by taking and doing things, by doing illegal things or doing things just scandalous things, right? Like,
Yeah.
and scripture says if you gain things illfully, you're going to lose them. And so I've lost way more than I've ever gained by doing any of those things. And one of the things that God has shown me is when you're obedient to him, the blessings are there. Like, and like I can speak to just tangible blessings that he's given me. Can I share like a 30-second story?
You could share a longer story.
So this was wild.
Yeah.
So I got arrested in 2019. 2022,
Uh-huh.
I got permission and I asked the church out of respect because of my case being so high profile. I was like, can I come back to Bible study? Because I love the church that I was at. And they were like,
Yeah.
yeah, they were very supportive. They met with me, helped me through everything. So I went back and I started going to Bible study on Wednesday mornings. And this lady sits down next to me and she goes, "You're the Lisa." And I was like, "Oh, yes, I'm the Lisa." It's either good or bad. It's either
I
you like
know.
me or you
Yeah.
don't like me. And I'm like, I never know which way this is going to go and if I need to
Yeah.
meet needs. And she goes, "You're the one from children's ministry." And I go, "Yeah, that's me." And she goes, "Well, it's nice to meet you." Well,
Mhm.
her and I, this was February of 2022. We become great friends.
Mhm.
September of 22, she calls me up one morning and she says, "Lisa, God told me to buy you a car." And I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
praise God, because I'm driving my car from college because
Mhm.
I'm not trying to cost my parents any more money. And it's a
Correct.
1998 GMC Jimmy, and the check engine
Mhm.
light just came on a couple weeks ago. So we
Uh-huh.
were looking at this car she had seen, and she goes, "Well, we don't need to get this for you. It's all-wheel drive. If you need four-wheel drive, we'll get you. Let's go look at some four-wheel drives." And I'm like, I'm not picky. I'm grateful for whatever
Y
you want to bless me with.
yes.
Driving over to a dealership, I said my dream car, and I had just written it back at the end of January in my journal. I said my dream car is a black GMC Yukon Denali.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
to drive it for one of the families. I absolutely love Yukon Denalis. She
Yeah,
said,
man,
"Oh,
man.
okay, we go look at cars." And we end up going and looking over at the GMC. This is at CarMax. And there's a white GMC Yukon Denali. It's a
Mhm.
2015, $40,000. She
Yeah.
goes, "You wanted black." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't care. Like, I'm grateful for whatever. Like, this is like,
Whatever. Yeah, this is like
real."
over and over and over than, what you imagine.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So the short of it is she ends up going to the bank, gets a cashier check for $42,000, outright buys it for me.
Oh,
The
wow.
best part of that story was when I went over to her house that afternoon to pick up my old car. We were sitting there and she said, "Lisa, back in 2019," and she didn't know me. She said, "When the pastor made the announcement from the pulpit that one of our own fell from grace," she said, "My heart broke for you. And I told
Mm.
God if I ever got to meet you, I wanted to help you and bless you. And today was that day."
Oh, wow.
I was an
That's
answer to her
beautiful.
prayer, and she was an answer to my prayer, and we've been
She
friends
was.
since.
That's
So
amazing.
all that to say, God blesses us. He doesn't give up on us. He has grace and mercy, and that's one of the things that has been shown to me over and over is God champions us, and
Yeah.
He's there for us.
No, for sure. I mean, that's a great way to end this podcast. I think he definitely does bless us. And he bless us with our stories to be able to share. He bless us with relationships. He bless us with just putting us in position. So that's what's happening right now in this time. So I'm grateful that you blessed us with appearing on this podcast and sharing your story. And I'm grateful to have met you.
Thank you. Same here, Sam. Thank you.
Yeah. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.